The American Dream. The American Dream and the Great Gatsby. The American Dream is the idea held by many in the United States of America that through hard work, courage, and determination, one can achieve financial and personal success. These were values held by many early European settlers and have been passed down to subsequent or following generations. What the American dream has become is a question under constant discussion, and some believe that it has led to an emphasis on material wealth as a measure of success and or happiness rather than a purer emphasis on self-sufficiency. The American dream is a concept that permeates American culture and unifies Americans despite their racial, religious, and socio-economic diversity. This dream also serves to connect Americans to their nation's historical past as well as to the generations of the future. Now, where did the origin of the American dream come from? It actually came with the European explorers and the Puritans. They had a doctrine of election and predestination, and that means that the Puritans, very strict Christians, they thought that God had already decided whether they would get into paradise or not. The Declaration of Independence, which says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that is also one of the origins of the American dream, because the pursuit of happiness is actually was supposed to be for everybody. Everybody had life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness, meaning a good life. And then in the American Revolutionary War, they were promised a land ownership and possibility of investments. And then during the Industrial Revolution, anyone could achieve wealth, and this is when we start seeing the first nouveau riche class develop. And then more individualism and self-reliance became important in the Industrial Revolution. And at the same time, we have, with all the immigration from Europe, we have westward expansion and the gold rush. The nouveau riche represented in the Great Gatsby is Gatsby himself, and everybody living in West Egg. As we talked about in class, East Egg are the traditional rich families, and in England they would be the nobility, but we don't really have nobility, but we have old money represented in East Egg, and then the new money in West Egg. Now, one of the authors that became quite popular and who wrote about the American dream is Horatio Alger, and he was a prolific dime novel writer, and he became famous for his novels that idealized the American dream. He wrote what is called rags to riches stories. Now, rags means old clothes, and then so you go from wearing very bad clothing to very good clothing. So you go from rags to riches. And he glorified the notion of the down and out who were able to achieve wealth and success, and he helped, this author helped entrench the dream with the popular culture. Now, the American president, Benjamin Franklin, he said, "Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." Near the 20th century, major industrialist personalities became the new model of the American dream. Many beginning life in the humblest of conditions, but later controlling enormous corporations and fortunes. Perhaps the most notable were the great American capitalists, Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. This acquisition of wealth demonstrated to many that if you had talent, intelligence, and a willingness to work hard, you were likely to be a success as a result. Now let's go to Gatsby and the American Dream. Whilst The Great Gatsby explores a number of themes, none is more prevalent than that of the corruption or destruction of the American dream. Gatsby appears to be the embodiment of this dream. He has risen from being a poor farm boy with no prospects to being rich, having a big house, servants, and a large social circle attending his numerous functions. He has achieved all this in only a few short years, having returned from the war penniless. However, Gatsby is never truly one of the elite. His dream is just a facade. However, Fitzgerald explores much more than the failure of the American dream. He is more deeply concerned with its total corruption. Gatsby has not achieved his wealth through honest hard work, but through bootlegging and crime. His money is not simply new money, it is dirty money, earned through dishonesty and crime. His wealthy lifestyle is little more than a facade, as is the whole person, J. Gatsby. The society in which the novel takes place is one of moral decadence. Whether their money is inherited or earned, its inhabitants are morally decadent, living life in quest of cheap thrills and with no seeming moral purpose to their lives. Any person who attempts to move up through the social classes becomes corrupt in the process. Like one of Horatio Alger's novels, Gatsby is a self-made man, springing from his platonic conception of himself, beholden to no one. Now this means that he looks up to himself, or he thinks of himself as a god, and only he can see it. Beholden means to be seen. In the final pages of the novel, the sweep of American history is alluded to in the landscape itself, as Nick is about to leave Long Island. The fresh, virginal country that Dutch sailors first saw is evoked, reinforcing the magic of the American promise. Now, the Dutch sailors, some of the first people who came to America, came from Holland. New York belonged to the Dutch before it belonged to the British. So before being called New York, it was actually called New Amsterdam. This promise has been tragically betrayed. The ideals that give meaning to American life are illusions, but Americans strive for them anyway, and doing so gives them a tragic grandeur or greatness. Its form, its satisfying complexity, its deft selection of detail, its great natural appeal, and its concision make The Great Gatsby one of the definitive statements of the American myth being the American dream.